Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining our webinar. Today, Vicky and I are going to address the topic on how to manage new clients. Vicky is our client advocacy manager, who also being a RVN has over 14 years of experience working in practice. And here at Vetstoria, she overlooks the implementation process and support clients in setting up the online booking tool. And I'm leading the customer success team at Vetstoria. And what our team does on a daily basis is reviewing accounts, analyzing data, and spotting opportunities spotting opportunities for improvement for our clients, with the goal to make practice life a little bit less stressful and just a little bit more enjoyable. Our agenda for today. So while pre-COVID, the question about accepting new clients barely came up, today the discussion on how to manage new clients and practice is part of a daily conversation. We see it all the time when we review accounts, when we set up accounts. And so while the first part of today's webinar focuses on some numbers, facts, and outcomes of a survey which we ran prior to this webinar, the second part focuses on how Vetstoria's features can help you. And in the last part, we'd also like to share some tips and best practices that you can follow. Obviously, a Q&A session won't be missed, which will give you the chance to raise questions in the chat. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you have, so please raise them. This is your time, your opportunity to raise them and get the answers. The first slide addresses the question, why is it difficult to accept new clients? So as most of us know and probably can feel it daily, pet ownership has increased. So COVID caused a boom in pet ownership, and it created a huge challenge in practice. Just to give you some numbers to make it more visible. So in the US, for example, in 1990, there were around 56% of households owned a pet. And today it's 70%. So there's a significant increase in pet ownership, not only in the US, but also if we take the UK as an example, from 2020 to May 2021, 3.2 million pets were acquired. And you can imagine that this increases the workload within practice significantly because all those new pets need to be taken care of. At the same time, fewer vets are being registered, which results in staff shortages across practices. And this again creates another challenge for practices. So these two conditions combined result of how we call it the perfect storm. And it's an incredible challenge for the practice staff. To get a better understanding on how practices are managing new clients, we conducted a survey and we would like to share the outcome with you. So the first question concerns the acceptance of new clients. So do practices accept new clients? Almost 70% answered yes. And some of you might use Vetstoria tools to support you in managing the workload already. However, around 14% stated that they do not accept new clients. And while we do understand that the workload that comes with new clients is intense, I'd like to take a second to point out why it is so important to still find a solution on how to accept new clients. So any new pet owner you accommodate now is a loyal customer in the future. So continuing to decline new customers completely will hurt your practice in the long run. Okay, so declining them might be a short-term solution because it is a stress release for you right now, but in the long run, it will damage your practice. So maybe compromising on how to accept and how to manage new clients can be made. And Vicky will show you various ways how this could be done in just a moment. And then we asked another question, which was, how do you manage new clients? So while close to 45% said we do everything as we do it for our registered clients, that's fine. The majority said that they actually found a compromise on how to manage new clients. So adding slot exclusions and availability rules to certain appointments helps them manage their diaries efficiently. Then prioritizing certain appointment types over others and specifying which appointments will cater new clients. Also, one is to increase the waiting time for new clients, which can easily be done through Vetstoria, or request the payment online in advance, right? You can decide if you would like to request payments in advance, maybe a deposit for new clients, maybe the full amount and a deposit for registered clients. This would be an option. And another one to mention is to offer remote consultation, so virtual care. And while we know telemedicine took off during COVID, it's still a great tool because we've seen recently that some practices start to offer nurse consultations, especially as a pre-preparation for the vet consultation that will then take place in the practice afterwards. So there are many ways on how to manage new clients, as I mentioned it, on how to find a compromise on how to accept new clients, which again, Vicky will cover in a bit more visually. She will take you through our platform and show you how this can be done. But before we move to the feature review, I'd like to look at the last question that we covered during our survey, with our survey. So this question is related to our latest improved feature, the new client form. Again, this is something that Vicky will show you later. It's a great feature. But we wanted to understand how practices register new clients right now. And the result was quite surprising, to be honest. Still, over 70% of practices collect client information over the phone, which is incredibly time-consuming. Considering the spelling and everything that you have to consider when getting all those details. So what I've done is I looked at the data that is available to us, and I saw in 2021, just to look at a complete year, on average, 15% of all the bookings made online were made by new clients. So if we translate this is thousands of appointments that have been made across the industry. And this is several hours that the team spends on the phone collecting details, even though this time could have been spent on more important projects or client care. So not only does offering the opportunity to register your new clients online save your practice some admin time, but it also improves client experience. So looking at recent studies, we see that over 70% of pet owners prefer to book their appointments online. And with it comes to register their pet online. And this is only the beginning. The beginning, I'm saying that because you might know it from yourself. I still remember the time when we booked our flights. We booked them over the phone, or we booked them through the agency directly. And then right before the holiday, there came this letter, and it included those paper printed flight tickets. And this was the time the Prosecco was open because holidays were closed. Great memories, but nowadays you couldn't even imagine to call an airline to book your flights. You book it online. You book it through the web. You book it over your phone. This is an expectation. This is an expectation that we have in other industries. It's very clear that this is the way to go. However, in the veterinary industry, it seems like it doesn't feel like it is an expectation. But what we've seen in 2022 is that it will definitely be one, because The majority of the consumers now are millennials. They're making up 32% of our consumers. And this is the group with the highest pet ownership ranking. So this is something to keep in mind. Millennials have the highest pet ownership ranking already. They make up the majority of consumers. And following those millennials is only coming Generation Z, which are even more tech savvy, more digital experience with higher expectation towards digital solutions. So something to keep in mind that now should be the moment to find alternative solutions on how to offer the right service online. And saying that, I think there were enough statistics and numbers that I mentioned at this point. I would like to hand over to my lovely colleague, Vicky, who will take you through the demonstration of our Vetstoria features.
Thank you, Ida. And I'm just going to escape out of this slide here and hop over to the sort of back end of the booking tool with Vetstoria, so you can get some real insight as to our features and the capabilities with new clients. So for those of you that are familiar with Vetstoria, you may already have an account with us. This is the homepage of the booking tool, of your booking platform rather. For new clients, it's going to look probably a little bit alien, so please bear with me as I navigate my way through this. So what I'm going to do is just look at a few key settings in ways which we can help you, and then demonstrate how this is then reflected to the pet owner on the booking tool itself. So first of all, when we go into our settings, I would like to draw your attention to the content pages here. Now, the content pages, what we have the ability to do is to create a Word document that you want the client to read and acknowledge at the time of booking. And for new clients, this may be really useful. And I did create one earlier for you, so I'll just open it up here. And this document that you want them to read could, of course, just explain that you're very happy to meet them. You're excited that they are considering you. And then we can have some points in which they need to prepare for their first visit. So we can set the expectation that they need to complete a registration form, make a payment, and obtain any previous records. Now, what some other clinics have also done is perhaps say that, it's mandatory for them to meet some preventative healthcare requirements or sign up to a wellness plan. So that's an option as well that you can include in this information. You can also inform the new clients what to expect. Information about your team and links to your website can be shared. Now, what's lovely about this document is that you can make it mandatory for the client to read at the time. They have to tick a box to say, yes, I understand this, before they can book the appointment with you. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment. And then under the configuration settings, we have Clinicians here. And just to give you a little bit of insight, we will pull through your columns or calendars directly from your practice management software, and you get to decide which are going to be in use for online booking, whether that's per room or per vet or nurse even. And what we're able to do is exclude certain appointments from one another. So, for example, we won't book nurse appointments in with the vet and vice versa. And you can, of course, tailor this for new clients as well. If you've got a new graduate and they're more comfortable seeing existing clients, we can make sure that the new clients are for other team members. Now, the really exciting screen for me is the appointment types. This is where you really get to customize what you want to offer online and the different types of availability on offer. So just to point out here, on the sort of left-hand side of this screen, we have the different types of appointments coming down the page here. And this is fully customizable. So I've just put in a few examples, as you can see. So I've got my first visit for a wellness exam, vaccinations, and I've decided this is for new clients only at 30 minutes. You can also see I exclude certain species from that appointment, so only dog, cat and rabbits can book it. And this, of course, will be different from clinic to clinic. Again, I've got another appointment for new clients for sick and injured pets at 30 minutes. And as we go down the page, you can then see I've got appointments that are specific for my existing clients. And this may be that we spend a little bit shorter time with them, 15 minutes, for example. And further down, it may be that you decide to allow quality of life assessments for all clients, as well as your nurse or technician appointments. And you'll see lastly, as Ida mentioned, some clinics are allowing sort of meet and greets with their nurses via video, or those sort of follow-up post-op checks and that sort of thing as well. So that's always an option to you. So you get to decide which appointments are going to be on offer for your new and existing clients, and whether they are going to change in duration, and they of course can apply to your nurses and vets. And then over on the right here, we have this little drop down menu, and you can see we've got more options to us. And if I select telemedicine, the right-hand side of the screen changes, but the appointment stays. And what this just allows us to do under telemedicine is I will ensure that for those booking the video consultation, they are going to receive a link to join the meeting, and they don't have to download an app or anything like that to attend that virtual call. Also, we then have the payment options, which have been extremely popular for our clinics at the moment, especially with new clients. So we know that one of the problems are new clients sort of hopping from clinic to clinic, or they may sort of book in for the first appointment and then not return. And we want to, of course, ensure that the clients that are seeing you are serious and they're committed to use your services. So with that in mind, we do ask for an upfront payment. This could be a deposit, or it could be the full amount. You decide. So they cannot book an appointment with you until that payment is made. And excuse me, I've got a cough. And then as you can see here, for new clients, I have added the amount of, say, £30. But for my existing clients, they are not required to make that payment. So again, you can customize that to your liking. And it's been very popular to prevent no-shows as well. And then further down, we have availability here. And I just want to point out a couple of popular settings. The first being the maximum appointment count. So it could be that one of your vets has typically 30 time slots on average a day. That's free for clients to book, but we don't necessarily want them all to be taken up by new clients booking in a vaccination. So rather than having it at 0 here, you may decide to add a limit of 10 per day. So you, again, can decide this per appointment, whether it's for new and, of course, existing clients as well. And the other feature is the gap to the earliest available slot. So what this means, and you can see that I've set it as 1 week for new clients and vaccinations. So if a client was to go online today to make this appointment, they're not going to see availability until 1 week's time. So we're looking at next Wednesday. And this helps, of course, with your waiting times and workload in clinic. For sick and injured, we may be quite happy, of course, for them to see you on the day. We want those appointments to be seen quickly and the pet to be assessed. And equally for existing clients, you may have other rules where those booking a vaccine may see you 24 hours later and they get priority also. So again, this can be customized to your liking here. Next, what I'll show you is the slot exclusions under the configuration settings. This is another tool that you can use to manage the availability. So what you'll notice here is I've done this by appointment. So for example, vaccinations cannot be booked on a Monday morning. They can only start from 1 until 5 p.m. because Mondays typically are very busy following the weekend. And again, we may have different hours during the week and maybe switched off on a Saturday. And we can be very specific here. So for your new clients, you may decide that only certain sessions in the morning typically your mid-morning or lunchtime hours where it may be a bit quieter, or they're the most, least booked appointments, you can channel it so that those are the only slots that are going to be on offer for your new clients to choose from. And again, we can do that per new, per existing, or we can base it on the appointment that they are booking, whether it's a consultation, euthanasia, etc. here. You also get to decide the species that can be booked online. This, of course, you can amend whenever you wish. And the last thing I'd like to show you before popping up the booking tool itself is our new client form. So what you'll see in a moment, when a new client books an appointment with you, we always capture their contact details, which includes their name, their pet's name, their email address and phone number. But in addition to that, we will ask for their previous vet information, their address, and further details about their pet here. And this form, once it's submitted, will be emailed to you so that your receptionist can get them on the system. So looking at the back end and how you can customize it, I'm going to show you how now it would be displayed to a pet owner. So here's the booking tool itself, and we always customize it with your logo, with your branding, so it's consistent for your pet owners. And I just want to draw your attention while we're here to the top right corner to say, is this an emergency? So if there is a client that is a bit panicked or unsure, they can click on this button. And as you can see, we can display a message asking them to give you a call, and that can be customized also. And then the first question we ask is whether they are a new or an existing client. And as mentioned, for a new client, there will be additional questions, and we will filter the appointments you have set up. So if there's only a few on offer, or if they're of longer duration, this is going to be applicable here. We then ask the number of pets that they wish to book for, and you can decide on a maximum here. If they did want to say book in 2 pets for a vaccination, it wouldn't be 30 minutes to see 2 dogs, for example. They would each get a time slot consecutively. So they will be given the right amount of time. You're not going to have to squeeze those in. And then we have our species list, which again, you can customize, and the appointments that the new client can book. So we've got our first visit, vaccination, sick and injured exam, and then of course the nurse appointments and the quality of life here that they can choose from. Depending on your clinician setup, you may see a list here of the different doctors or rooms. As you can see here, we simply have vet appointment for the time being. Now, when I go to next here, because I set up a disclaimer for the clients to read and acknowledge at the time of booking, this is where it will be displayed. So you can see here that I'm welcoming the new client and I'm setting the expectation of what is going to happen. So we're going to ask them to complete the form at the end of the booking process. We're going to ask up front for that £30 deposit, and we will need any previous health records for their pet. They cannot continue with the online booking, as you can see here, until they tick that box to say, yes, I understand, and then they can continue. And what we see on the next screen is the dates and times that are available to the new client. So as I picked vaccination, you'll recall that I pushed this out a week. So we're now not seeing any time slots until the 31st here. Equally, because I set up slot exclusion rules for vaccinations, if I wanted a Monday, I'm not going to get any morning slots, only afternoon availability. So once I've made my selection here, we then ask the new client to complete some details. So we always ask for their email address, phone number, their name here, their pet's name, and the reason for the appointment. So for example, if it's a vaccination, I can elaborate and say that it's a booster. This box is really quite special. Just to give you some insight, if they were to type in a word that could potentially be an emergency like bleed, bloat, straining, etc., we do have a message that instructs them to give you a call, because we do not want those types of bookings taking place online. And then as you can see here, we have the previous, vets if necessary that they can input for you. And then when they go on to the next screen, this is where we're going to ask for that £30 deposit here. So they will enter their card details like so, pay the £30 or whatever amount you wish here. And what is happening now is that the appointment is being booked. So two things have happened. The appointment will land in the relevant vets column, and you can see confirmation of that on the left here. The payment has been made, that's upfront, that's been taken from the new client, and then they have the opportunity to complete the new client form here as well for you. So they'll enter their address details, more information about the pet, like so, and they will complete the registration at the bottom, and this will be emailed to you. So your receptionist will get that email notification with the contact details, the pet information, they can get them registered on the system, payment has been made, and the appointment is visible in your diary there. And as a pet owner, I'll also receive some communication. So I should first of all receive the confirmation email, which you can see in my inbox here. So it's confirming the details, and I do have the opportunity to reschedule or cancel it if necessary, and rather than calling the clinic. And also what I receive is an email just confirming the payment that I have made to you as well. So a receipt of that transaction. So it's a very quick and seamless process for the pet owner to do. And ultimately, we want to save your receptionists a lot of time completing those forms, as Ida mentioned, making those bookings, but really customizing the back end so that you're in control ultimately. And the pet owner is satisfied. They've been able to go online, book the appointment, and access your services here. So I'll just go back to the slides just to give you a bit of a summary here. So what can we help with? So I showed you the new client form that the clients can complete. We also showed you the payment options as well to prevent no-shows, and to obviously just make sure that the client is really committed to your services here. We had the content pages where you can add information, set the expectation for the new clients so that you're in alignment and they can continue the booking process. We can set up the appointments so that new and existing client bookings are visible, but they may differ, of course, to duration and the types that they are. And you can also, as we mentioned, limit the types of appointments that are booked online for those new clients. And the gap to the earliest slot, that was when I pushed it out a week, but perhaps my existing clients can book 24 hours later. So you can prioritize appointments and your existing versus new clients there. The slot exclusions is where we really can be very specific with the availability, leaving out Monday mornings for new clients and vaccines, for example, and only allowing afternoon appointments. And we just touched on very briefly that you can have virtual appointments, whether that's with the nurses or even vets that are working from home for meet and greets and follow-ups and that sort of thing. And these features allow you to keep in control. We know how important that is from clinic to clinic. We want to reduce the phone calls at your reception, so they can focus on other tasks and the clients that are in front of them in the waiting room. We know how important that is also. We want to prevent no-shows. You can do remote triage or simple meet and greets. And of course, we want to keep the pet owners satisfied, as Ida mentioned, with the millennials and Gen Z generations coming up here. So best practices and tips that we've collected from talking to many clients with regards to the new clients and managing them. So controlling availability, so your waiting times, being able to prioritize perhaps your existing clients, but compromising and perhaps booking the new clients for a week's time. Of course, sick pets may take precedent over your routines. Limit new clients as well. I think it's important to sort of understand how many new clients you're happy to see and look at that type of data coming into your clinic. And then the Monday to Friday slots, potentially looking at those mid-morning lunchtime slots that are typically harder to fill, perhaps asking the new clients to book at those times. Another thing that other clinics are doing is basing it on location, and they use our disclaimers to perhaps say that they have to fall into a particular postcode or area in order to book online with you. So only taking clients that are in your sort of vicinity there. So that is also something we can manage. As mentioned, the appointment types, prioritizing sick or emergency appointments for new clients over routine. We also have had clinics that only allows the puppy kitten vaccinations or rescue as opposed to everything else. And as you can see here, really utilising your nurses using telemedicine and in clinic to do meets and greets and sort of triage as well. The payments, as mentioned, are hugely popular. We've seen this, whether it's upfront payment for the whole consultation fee or a deposit to prevent those no-shows. And then the paperwork, as we can see here, getting this ahead of time so that you feel prepared, you feel that you're in control and you've got all the information you need before the appointment. And this, of course, comes into the new client form, asking them to complete that online. And perhaps you will have a contractual agreement where they have to sign up to a wellness plan or agree to preventative care. So, of course, that will vary clinic to clinic. And then lastly, monitoring your data. And I think it's important to be mindful, as Ida mentioned, that the long-term goals, it's very positive to take on new clients because we are going to lose existing clients each year, and I believe it's about 10 to 15%. And, of course, that could be because they move location, they change vets, or bless their family pet has passed away. So we have to bear that in mind. And I think it's good to get to grips with those type of figures that you are seeing in your clinic and how many new clients you need to, of course, bring in the revenue and maintain your services there. So that's the sort of end of the demonstration and slides there from myself and Ida. And I just wanted to leave on this quote from Barack Obama. I'm a big quote fan, so I do apologize. I love them. But the one thing that I absolutely adore about the veterinary industry is how adaptable we are. And I think we've proven this time and time again. But of course, the industry is under a lot of stress and strain, and there's multiple reasons for that. But I just wanted to remind you all that sometimes when we're looking outward for a solution or for change, that typically we will find it ourselves, and we can be the change in clinic. And time again, the veterinary industry has the best problem solvers, I think, in the world. So I just wanted to leave you with that quote and hopefully offer a little bit of inspiration there, that even though it's tough, we are problem solvers, adapters, and we can make change happen for the better. On that slide as well, you'll notice if you are not a client of ours, there is a QR code that you can scan. There is a link where you can contact us for more information. And if you're existing, again, you can scan that code and reach out to our support teams to help you. So now I suppose we can go on to our Q&A session here. So I'll just see if there's any questions in the chat. Okay. So thank you, Dawn, for your question. So you've asked whether we can create availability by date, i.e. if you have low staff next Monday, but will it be okay the following Monday? So this is a good question. So in the Vetstoria backend, as you just saw a moment ago, we can create rules, for example, where we're going to limit those appointments on a Monday morning for vaccines. Now, the way that it works with Vetstoria is that will be a weekly pattern, so it's fixed. However, we work with your practice management software, and we recognize things like block-offs. So if you did have a vet call in sick on a Monday, they're typically open for online bookings. if you were to block them off in the diary, we can no longer see that availability. So we do have the opportunity to control slots in Vetstoria, but we always take into account what is happening in your practice management software as well. So I hope that answers that. And then how are payments shown at clinic level? So there are three ways to view your payment transactions. So the first one will be, say it's for a new client and it's a deposit. You will see the appointment land in the relevant column, and on the appointment note, it will say, you know, Mrs. Smith has paid £30. So you'll see that payment information there. You can also set up email notifications with Stripe, and they will email you each and every time a payment is made. And then lastly, we do have in the Vetstoria backend of your account, under the Appointments tab, there is a way to view all your payment transactions and export a document, so you can, of course, update your records internally. So there's a few ways where you can see that information. I hope that answers that for you. And then how does the new client form get to you? Thank you, Laurie. Along with an email notification of a booked appointment or in a separate email. So what will happen is when the client completes the booking and the new client form, it is emailed to you, and that's an email that you choose to have, and it will be sent immediately. So as soon as the client completes that registration, it will go to you via email. So your clients your receptionist not only will see that booking come through, but they'll have the information to get them on the system. Okay, do we allocate thank you, Dawn, again, do we allocate the payment through Merlin? How is the actual money dealt with? So the way that it's dealt with, Dawn, is similar to a phone payment. So it's a manual step. When a client pays online with Vetstoria and Stripe, it will not automatically update your client's record. So it's very similar to taking it over the phone and then updating it afterwards. So this is why you've got a few options as where you can see that information. You can download a list of the transactions per day and then update the record internally. And then we've got a question about integration. We do integrate with eVet Practice. I'd have to find out about the Pulse side of things for you. If you could leave your information, I know you're anonymous at the moment. We'll be more than happy to find that answer out for you. Any other questions at all? Please feel free to ask away. So I don't think there's any other questions. Ida, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share?
No, nothing else to share. Maybe just to mention there were some more questions and I answered them. So if you guys look at the answers, I shared some links also on payment, how to manage payments through Vetstoria, some further information which redirects to our website, which includes the information based on the question. So, but no, nothing else to add.
Yes, and I just see one question here. So the new client form, as we mentioned and demonstrated a moment ago, is subject to change. So we do have a new UI user interface coming soon, and it will be you'll have the opportunity to make it mandatory for the new clients to complete, first of all, and there will be slight changes. So where you saw age, for example, we'll be asking for the date of birth following feedback from our existing clients. So there are some really exciting updates that are happening, and I believe it's going to look and work a lot better for you. Excellent. Okay. Sorry, Melanie just also asked a question about the forms from the client. Your CS rep must still key the client patient information. Yes. So very similar to what clinics have on, perhaps online, you've got a new client form and the client will complete it and submit it and your team will manually input that data. The same happens at Vetstoria. So it will not create a new client record for you, but you will be sent that information so your team can get them on the system ahead of the appointment, so that they're not sort of waiting at reception and doing it all at the same time. And then, Dawn, you've asked some questions about payments here. Do they get sent to finance at head office? to then allocate to us at a later date. So it really depends, of course, whether you're an independent versus corporate clinic and you're set up internally. We may have a vetting clinic that's managing the finance by himself, and he may have to do the banking at the end of the day and update those records. And then for other clinics, there may be a finance team that will reconcile that for you. So it will vary depending on your setup, but ultimately you're notified of the payment. You can download a list of the transactions, but it is a manual task similar to a phone payment that will have to be manually updated on the client's record. Okay, so I think that's all the questions here. Okay, so I think we are good, aren't we? And I think, Edie, as you mentioned, if you have any other questions, whether you're an existing client or whether you're new and interested to know more, please head over to our website where you can get further support, and we'll be more than happy to answer further questions or clarify any of these settings with you. So thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a really, really lovely Wednesday, wherever you are across the globe. And I hope to speak to you very soon. And thank you, Ida. Thank you, Ishara.